Let me start with a question that sounds simple, but should unsettle you deeply. If you can't fully trust what you heard on the news last week, how can you trust accounts from 100, 500, or even 1,000 years ago? Think about it. Because by the end of this video, you'll realise something disturbing. History isn't a record of truth, it's a record of narratives that won. We're taught to see history as fixed, solid, settled, authoritative, dates, events, outcomes. But history is not reality. It's reality after it's been edited, filtered through human memory, political interests, cultural bias, fear and power. Even today, right now, with cameras everywhere and information instantly available, we still can't agree on what's happening. So why do you assume the past somehow got it right? Edward Bernays, the father of modern propaganda, said something chilling. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organised habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. Bernays understood something fundamental. People don't need to be forced, they need to be guided. Narratives don't work by lying outright. They work by selecting emphasis, repeating framing, applying to emotion, associating ideas with identity and morality. Now ask yourself, if propaganda can shape public opinion in real time, what does it do to history over decades and centuries? COVID is the perfect case study. Future historians may write, governments followed the science, massive deaths, extraordinary measures were necessary, public compliance saved lives, misinformation was responsibly controlled. But you lived it. You remember, trust the science while scientists disagreed, policies changing without accountability, questions being framed as moral failures, fear being used as a behavioural tool, silence being mistaken for consensus, social punishment replacing debate. Bernays would call this emotional engineering, because when fear is high, critical thinking stops, authority feels comforting, complexity becomes threatening. And history books love authority. Noam Chomsky took Bernays' idea even further. He argued that modern societies don't rely on brute force, they rely on manufactured consent, not by telling people what to think, but by deciding what's discussed, what's ignored, what's framed as reasonable, and what's framed as dangerous. Now apply that to history. If entire topics can be quietly excluded today, what do you think happens to inconvenient truths over 100 years? History doesn't just record events, it records what made it past the filter. Here's the key insight most people miss. History starts as news, and news is rushed, selective, incentivized, framed for attention and legitimacy. How many times have you seen a headline that's corrected days later, a story disappears without explanation, an expert proven wrong quietly, a narrative flip with no apology? If immediate history can't be trusted, ancient history should terrify you. 9/11 wasn't just an event, it was a psychological rupture. If you were alive at the time, you remember the shock, the fear, the way uncertainty filled the air, how questioning felt inappropriate, even dangerous. And then came war, surveillance, security theatre, permanent emergency powers. Future historians will read a terrorist attack reshaped global politics. Security measures were expanded. They won't feel fear that justified everything, the emotional momentum, the silencing of doubt, gradual normalisation of control, the truth and facts that happened. Fear doesn't age well in textbooks. George Orwell warned us plainly, who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past. History isn't just remembered, it's maintained through education systems, approved narratives, cultural taboos, and moral framing. The most powerful propaganda isn't loud, it's invisible. When questioning history feels immature, offensive, or dangerous, the system is working perfectly. Now zoom out. Ancient empires, religious texts, sacred histories. Many were written long after the event, copied by hand, translated repeatedly into different languages, controlled by institutions with power to protect. Yet the older they are, the less we question them. Time doesn't guarantee truth, it creates authority, and authority discourages curiosity. So what will future historians get wrong about us? Well, they'll misunderstand how confused truth felt, how manipulated narratives became, how algorithms shaped belief, how silence masked dissent, how tired people were, how often people complied just to survive. They'll see policies, data, official statements. They won't see private doubt, quiet resistance, emotional fatigue and moral conflict. History records outcomes, not inner lives. So can history be trusted? Well, not as truth, only as a persuasive story shaped by power, fear and incentive. History should be read like propaganda. Who benefits? What's missing? What alternatives exist? Why does this version feel so certain? Because history isn't lies, it's selective memory with authority. And if you can't trust what you were told last week, you should be very careful trusting what you've been told about what happened over 1,000 years ago.